Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Lifting. Tonight's episode is being filmed on 9/11/24. Before we get going here, I now open this circle to true benevolence with no conflicting agendas as of this moment in time. So, Joanna?
We are all one, and when one is harmed, all are harmed. When one is helped, all are helped. Therefore, in the name of who I am, and I am one with all there is, that only the highest good be done. We pray for you, your friends, your family, your loved ones, to let healing energies in. Let them love you, let them nourish you, and let them bring you to your highest good. We ask benevolence now to come in with no conflicting agenda, be it past family members, elementals, galactrics, those from the interverse, and anyone who wishes to join along in this conversation or hear it, but again, with no conflicting agendas to allow this conversation to be heard. We ask for any malevolent or mischievous beings now to be swept away, those that want to interfere with this conversation, to allow people to have this conversation in peace so that they may think about it and may bring into themselves anything that they feel that is relevant and helpful to their lives. And with that, and with great blessings that we always send your way, we say, so be it.
So be it. Isaac went #Galactric. Anytime you slur or anything, he's gonna make fun of it. So Galactric. Okay. He's like, what exactly is a Galactric? Uh, uh, Joanne?
So today we're going to have a conversation. I hope you find it interesting. It's one that's near and dear to Chris's and my heart. And it's a hard conversation to have because we find ourselves in the midst of it and in the midst of us wanting to discover how to help people heal. We're talking again about those people who feel that they have had experiences within the secret space program and or programs or ops surrounded by these kind of secrecies and things that could be going on. Again, most people understand that what we're talking about is what some would consider missing time, where you're actually pulled and gone to a place where you are having a totally different life, working a totally different potential job. Even your behaviors could be totally different than how you actually see yourself. We would love to say that this was something that was great and benevolent, but in our opinion, when you are not truly given informed consent, and in truth, we haven't heard one instance of somebody being given truly formed, information to make consent. We've heard a lot of trickery and omission that may have led to people's consent, but we really feel full, open, and honest consent is not something that's normally a part of this for most people. And so we obviously don't like that. And within these projects, there are different types of, let's just say, enhancement techniques that may happen to you to boost your physical status, to boost your psionic status. And unfortunately, a huge arena where domination and control is a part of it. And we talk a lot about programming and different things here, current present moment, but domination and control of people's behaviors and emotions and behaviors, let's just say, and behavior patterns was heavily controlled over there. In fact, anyone who's listened to us before, we've said there's a good chance if you really knew who you were and how you were being over there and you truly understood it, you'd want to kill yourself, because oftentimes it's not a very pretty picture of the type of personality and personality traits they would want to bring forward.
And should you bring back certain things? Yes, if it is needed here. Now, the more you integrate, it's a common belief, the more you integrate, the more you balance out. And I cannot deny that. When I became more sovereign when I started to remember things that took place. That's a dumb moment when it comes to reintegration and doing shadow work. What is not a dumb moment is part of this. When people, there were some that were taken in their original bodies out there, and some of them came up as missing people and such here. But there are those when they were body snatched and taken through time. Like I had a sheet put over me, a little device put in my eye, a needle, and I had this sheet where all you saw was my eyes. Was pulled out, and the soul put in a different version of myself. When this occurred, the reason that they do this as a child, this was at the age of 8, and some people don't know what I'm talking about when I say this part. Some do. Uh, the When you wake up the next day, you were gone for that 20 back, but at the same time, you are running parallel for 20 years with this other self. And then sometimes it becomes an alter in your own mind. Sometimes it's manufactured out of people of your family. I had one in my head that reminded me of my father a little bit, but based on familial traits on his side of the family. But then I found it was more me, the version of me there. And the reason that version looked older is because I had gone for more than 120 back. What happened was, as this is going along, you get quantumly tripped up a little bit. You're getting phantom memories because it's basically like a phone on trying to dial one's own phone number on the old phones where you just get the busy signal. They did this on Stargate as well, where the two of the crew members thought they were on a frozen planet. It was Samantha and O'Neill thought they were on a frozen planet. It was really Antarctica. They tried to dial home, and the gates just shook. That because the home device was dialing itself. This is essentially what happened. You go through seizures. Sometimes your brain gets damaged a little bit. What is going on is this other separate life. This is what happens. Your brain is encoding and decoding every moment you are looking at things and doing things, emotions, what you're being taught, etc., etc., etc. What happens is this particular other you that's going parallel could have a vastly different personality than the one you have here. And when you're getting these memories, sometimes violent, sometimes weird, sometimes sexual, sometimes all, you're getting it from that other self that you were trained to be over here. What takes place here then is when that is integrated back, you slingshot ahead. Your life was more stagnated as you were going along. At that time, you may have not had focus, creativity, expressiveness, etc., and the will to do it sometimes. And the psionic dampening makes it worse. When this is brought back, that can slingshot ahead. Now, as you're getting memories back in dreams and such, you're seeing things and hearing words that aren't your own, seeing actions that may not have been your own. As this comes back, you're getting these thoughts and feelings, and you end up denying them, going, "That's not me. No, I swear it's not." Yes, it was, because this could, as this encodes and decodes. Also, when you're bringing these memories back, they were from a brain that were not this brain. They were your brain, but a clone of your brain. And also, if they put you in another body, like they did to me, female bodies and all these other bodies, these are other brains. Then the consciousness stores this. The soul remembers. But what did that decoding and encoding map look like on the SSP end versus the one here? Both are true. Both are you. One can also be considered another expression. One even be considered a past life. People even ask me, "Are you sure that's not a past life? Because that doesn't feel like me." Of course it wouldn't, but it was. And what it is as the brain decodes and encodes, it forms these synapses differently. And the brain map and the chemicals in it are slightly different. Also, they as we said in the 144,000 episode of GIC one time, and things of that nature, the way the aliens chose where to have the humans delegate people was the fact that the Ebens and such took a genetic sample, saw the amino acids in the person's body, translated those, or the genetic memory, translated those to ones and zeros, and displayed what was in the family history, and which also helped create alters, and how to train people and where to put them, and past lives and how to train people and where to put them. You had a lot of warriors would be warriors, medical would be medical, servant to religious organizations stuff. They put him in a department called miracle worker, where they would do fake miracles and such, bleeding statues, stigmata. You know that whole bit. Um, I've said this on multiple occasions before. Uh, this falls under that particular category. Some fake channelers even fall under that category. I'm not going to dump on the entire community. It's maybe a fraction. But with this though that decoding and encoding could be so vastly different. If you brought all that back at once, and I know that's the popular viewpoint, I attempted this little stunt. It's not advisable because you could get major brain damage from that, because you are bringing in the well, it's you. Of course, it's you. But what version of you was that? What did that brain mapping look like? What did that energy mapping look like? Where it was also more of maybe a knowledgeable consciousness in that body that could handle more of that, and you're trying to bring it into a body that might not be able to handle it. Back in 2021, I got horribly sick. All of you remember that. That was the time I was starting to write my SSP book. At that same time, granted, there was targeting taking place. That I cannot deny. There was insectoids, all that crap involved. But when I started to bring this back, it started to open up that same decoding and encoding in this brain. Then what happens? There is a schism that takes place. Then after that, what happens? You may have one personality that is you here. You may have another one that is the alter. There are also alters that are in different bodies and places as well. There are also ones that have been put in the head. There's also the ones you know of in schizophrenia, past lives, that comes from there as well. But in this specific topic, this other personality, and you can even talk to this other personality, believe it or not. What happens there once it's integrated? The mind wants to come back to wholeness. It's one, not two. The brain is trying to quantify what it has brought back into itself. And was I there or wasn't I? I was here, but I was also there. Da, 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 da. The brain wants to be logical. The soul knows it can be everywhere, everything everywhere all at once. The brain is linear. But it was the brain encoding that has to bring this in properly. Once you do it properly, you'll feel freer. I always when I know there's some memories ready to pop, I have great anxiety. Once they do, once it's been integrated through dreams, the subconscious will bring it through the unconscious and then the conscious, subconscious, unconscious, conscious. Once that happens, once you've fully integrated the fragment that your soul is trying to bring out, because it's causing you the most distress, and it is also making it so that you are coming back into wholeness for that particular moment in time. When you accomplish this, you will feel calm again. Even if it was something horrible that you are remembering, even if it's something not good at all, it will make you feel whole again. If it make you feel sovereign. Now, here is another a part of this complex, and we heard this at the conference too. It's something that I call the hero complex and the hero mentality. People believe that back there that they did something really great, really heroic. Mm-mm. What this is, it is a program that it's uploaded, so you think that it was something wonderful that took place. Also, the subconscious is trying to protect you by keeping you away from trauma, so it wants to believe the heroic tale first. What I also remember here, this is also something you may be getting back a fantasy that you were having there, just like in a particular situation there, a real bad one on a foreign planet. I'll go into that in another episode we do at some point. Not going here. What happened was I was envisioning going to Mars and killing the Martian Germans, jumping through a portal and cut their heads off. Did I actually do that? No. People get the high intensity emotional stuff first on a singular point, and it's out of context in that memory. So you think you've done that, just like in the military bases and in the corporations, they would pass by weird projects, reptilians, all these other things in front of people as disinformation. What do people remember? That when I was in the Alaska project, I will mention this too. the evil colonel at the time. I believe his last name was Jameson. I believe his name's Alan Jameson. Don't quote me on that. I may be getting weird. The name might not be right. But on the Alaska bases, I had this nightmare where I was swimming in Lake Iliandra, and I never can get that name right. I always slur it. Um, where I spent a lot of that Earthbound SSP time there. People remember on our Patreon the video I posted I called Fishmonger, where the military was trying to capture one of the mer people there. In this dream sequence, I was an Inuit woman who was jumping off of a boat and hearing a voice in her head to jump off the boat. She jumps off the boat. Okay, go below the bottom. We'll go below the bottom. This big fish being that looked like an oarfish and a tiger fish pops up and eats her. I wake up screaming. Joanna remembers this part. In this scenario, why did I remember this when it didn't actually happen to me? Because I was being shown in a virtual with virtual goggles sitting at a computer of an actual ghost incident of a woman, an Inuit woman, who was attacked by one of these beings. I don't say creature, they hate the word creature. I'm trying to actually make up some of the crap I did by luring the military into their territory. Again, my personality was different there when I was remembering these things. My words were different, my actions are different, my psionic abilities were a little more boosted. And I remember tricking these beings into being captured by the military so the military could take their DNA. And they've hated me ever since. I tried to make it up to them, but they basically said, "Don't come to our lake." They don't see the difference. They see a whole being. They don't see the different schisms. Some will see you, judge you on a wholeness of a being, versus that versus that of the oversoul. They will also see the oversoul planned it and go, "Oh, you included us in this little scheme." They'll blame the oversoul too. In this instance, they just blame me because they saw me as a whole being. They saw I already had the memories stored away in a suppression bubble that's like a balloon with a cork in it. And if you get near a high intensity magnetic field, like an MRI or an Earth piezoelectric field, or even some of our orgone pieces, those that suppression bubble could fart, and you get some of this back. And it can be pretty bad because it contradicts. Personality contradicts. Would I personally have ever done that to those mer? No. They saw I didn't have the same memories and I didn't have the same life. They saw me as different. So I believe there's an example Tony Rodriguez talked about the bug people of Mars. That's one spared him and saw where he actually came from, spared him based on the fact he was not one of the Martian Germans. Great example. Then I use my own example as the one with the mer people of Alaska. This is these two people forget that yes, there is good in bringing this back in, but there comes at a price too. Also, there can be targeting that goes with it because you hit a tripwire. You've heard us talk about tripwires. If you remember in a certain order from back to front, how people usually remember things, you hit a frequency tripwire, and then people are wondering why they either have men in black at their door, have black vehicles sitting out on the street, or they're getting mentally harassed by V2K tech. So there are pros and cons and pendulum swings that go with this massively. How do you heal from this? People are under the misconception that it's positivity that only heals from this. No, I mean, it's a good thing, but at the same time, people sometimes spare looking at the memories and the thing they're supposed to, and end up getting nailed by negative entities and such because they have a weakness because they haven't done the proper shadow work. They're under the misconception that they only want to look at the positive things. And some would say that's the coward's path. Yes and no. You have to look at these things if they are real. You must look at these things, like the whole St. Matthias bit when I was remembering stuff from the beginning of that or the SSP. And that's going to be in my book. I will go back to doing that here at some point, where I thought there was a big door in the basement of the school that had a bunch of locks on it. I was incorrect on that. That was my subconscious locking up the bulk of the memories because that's where I was selected to go into the SSP to begin with in 1988. So, with that said, remembering a lot of these things. And recently, I remembered stuff from another world in the Introverse. You heard us talking about that. bits of. I was wondering why I was fascinated with the world of Lonulus. I found out I had been there during that time. So for a little while. So when I came to terms with some high intensity emotions that came from there, it started to calm again. So there are upsides to this. The downsides are what I said before.
So I think to just add to some of the things that Chris said, one of the things that we've realized is that can you trust the memories that you're having to be
Padded
the
list.
real ones? It really is. And so what you've got going on there are a bunch of things. You could have some real memories coming through. You could have some programming related to triggers. You could have your own fantasies going on. I like to refer to that as coping.
Yes.
So in general, you're in a bad situation and you're daydreaming of how you would handle something or how you would do
And you
something.
remember that most of all.
And you're remembering that, and you were trying to cope in a bad situation or end it some way or do something. And you do have implanted just implanted memories that are there. So it is a big work in progress to know what you're dealing with, because again, the one area again that we talk about is teasing out which one is which. It's not that simple, and it really isn't. And it's integrated into your brain a lot of times as if it's all exactly equivalent, it's all real. And in some senses, people would say, it's just like being in fear. You could right now put yourself in fear if you want by using your imagination to create a scenario. It's the same kind of concept where all these scenarios are shoved into your head, which one is real, which one is not, when they're all looking the same. So you have to be aware of some of this. I actually believe, although Chris was saying you need to look at it, I would have added, you need to look at it if it is affecting you now. Not 100% of your experiences are affecting you now.
Nor will they also always be able to come back 100%.
Right. So what you want, in my opinion, is a broad enough brushstroke of understanding of what occurred, and and being able to wrap your head around, do you actually even believe the whole story is even plausible, where again some people are at as well, and being able to accept some of the dynamics that were over there versus what is who you really are here. We can't stress enough, you need to know who you are to be able to tease out when something else may be coming in that may be altering your current present moment personality of who you say you are. But if you don't know who you are, then you don't know when to not entertain something else that's potentially trying to come in, be it a trigger, be it, as Chris was saying, something, touching really closely, coming in and potentially affecting you now. But you have to know yourself. So for us, one of the areas that is growing, and we are for this, is the communities that are trying to grow to support people and their stories and their experiences. Again, it's very difficult for anyone, virtually really impossible, to prove their story. I'm just going to say that. And that could offend people. I don't really care. Prove it. You're not going to be able to right now. You're not going to be able to go out there and prove all of this stuff.
Part on Earth, yes.
Possibly some of it, but in general, as a generalized statement, proving this is not something that is in general done. It's basically, again, the personal knowingness that something more in general occurred and remembering some of that stuff. So in these communities, again, the goal is to, be able to provide a space for people to explore some of these thoughts and memories, to feel like they are supported in these thoughts and memories. And then what I, wanted to talk about kind of the pitfalls of all of this is
Mhm.
that the idea of these communities forming to support one another was well known that it was going to occur. So this isn't like a surprise, we're getting together. Oh, they already knew that people were going to eventually energetically find one another because, again, if people are vibrating close to a same frequency, and again, a lot of people in these communities are in a particular frequency where they will slowly find one another or be attracted to certain conversations on YouTube or whatever, that this is bound to occur. And so, again, what were the tripwires? What were the things that were put into play to try and cause chaos within a community? And so, we always, again, for the healing, want people to first know that chaos is input into people. And especially if they thought that you were going to come back and potentially try to even break out of this, I guarantee you that, you were seen, you were programmed, you were given tripwires, and there really aren't those that have reached this epitome of a level of a human being that isn't potentially susceptible to any of that. And so, what again, you have to know who you are in this current present moment. What is your personality? How does that reflect in how you deal with others? Who do you say you are? And do your words and actions match? Because that is what is key. Because there are going to be moments, again, that conversations are going to trigger feelings and emotions, and it's going to be done usually through emotions and triggers, which is going to try to cause now chaos within a group to break things down. Who is that serving? Is my first point. Who is all that chaos serving? It's certainly not for the group's highest good, but people don't realize, in my humble opinion, people do not realize their susceptibility to it. So they are often not equipped to know how to handle these situations. And some then of the behaviors of who they say they are not in this current present moment began to bleed through. It was a dog eat dog world. People were not kind to one another. People wanted to outdo. People wanted to, I'm the favored one. You are now diminished to nothing. This is the reality of the behaviors that were instilled and how things worked over there. It wasn't a camaraderie. And so the goal now is to have a support system and a camaraderie grow with the environment. As far as personal responsibility, I hate to say this. This is not fair. I'm not even saying it's fair. It's not fair what people went through. I'm sorry. But if you want these things to be taken seriously and you want to have serious conversation, you have to keep yourself in check. You must keep yourself in check. You don't want to be the one that is causing, a breakdown or causing an explosion or causing all of this to happen because you're emotionally just been set off. But you also don't want to be the one that is doing the ostracizing. So both sides of this, right, are being controlled, whether you realize it or not, by an outside force trying to continue to cause the chaos within
And
groups.
also, I came to find out at the conference earlier in the year in July, I found out there were both sides focused on the conference, those that were trying to sabotage it, the B2K, the military, ET forces, and the same goes with the positivity. There were spirit guides, there were benevolent galactics, benevolent, human groups, alien groups, everybody there. They were clashing over this. And even as of today, I found out, when the forest people said they took up a presence there too, they basically waved the flag and went, "Okay, we made it here first, everybody." Even though they did they were at the table basically. So they were saying that when I did a session earlier today, but which I found hilarious. But the point it was contested over because it was, I found it, that was a fledgling conference, not insulted intended. It's a fledgling conference and it's brand new. And so the Yield was trying to get a seat at the table, which didn't happen. And then Negative Galactics were trying to get a seat at the table, which didn't happen. Force People got a seat at the table, which did happen. And then you had a lot of interferences there from V2K to arguments in some areas too. Even the blackout afterwards being caused by military forces that were displeased with the fact that it went off without a hitch. Uh, so the fact that, even Valiant Thor told me today that he was part of the rearranging of things that happened there. So that's he was running the calculations to see if he could find a focal point for some of the positivity through that. And he was telling the truth when he said that earlier today. I wanted him to talk more on this, but I don't think he's the one around today. But
just to understand, when I wish I could say that these conferences were free and clear. They are not. These energies and conflicting energies are always going to try to make their way into these things. And so you just have to, be on guard and be discerning. But what you really have to understand is that no one is beyond yet being vulnerable to the pressures still being exerted from something you are involved in to cause chaos and to dismantle these groups from getting together. Now, what does that mean? Does it mean that everyone just needs to get along? It would be nice, but I would also like to say that there has to be personal responsibility to be able to not let some of these outside forces cause certain behaviors to reemerge, especially if you say that's not who you are. So it may be as simple sometimes is that, and I don't know any other way to put it, that sometimes if you are not at a particular point in healing, you may not be ready for other things and being a part of other things. Does that mean total ostracization? Absolutely not, nor should it be. Healing is a process. Gaining control over this is a process. It does not happen overnight. And my hope is that, people will recognize better the struggle that everyone goes through. No one is exempt from this, and understand the process, of what is occurring and why it is occurring, in order then to stay grounded in your current present moment, I am self, and know who you are strong enough to not let this other go on. Now, your imagination, though, can do whatever it wants. You could have thoughts coming in that, again, you do not act upon. You do not act this way because it's not representative of you. You can, in your imagination, write whatever scenario you want. You don't have to talk about it. You don't, just let it go. Just finish it off and let it go so that you may present yourself as to who you really are. And in most of these communities, I think the goal is to create an environment where people are feeling safe to be able to come in. So again, you can have both sides, even within a group, starting to churn, okay? And it's a lot of it having to do with a lot of outside forces and outside information that were built in to have you react. Again, the forest people are really great at this. They say you've got to find that calm space, and that's where you need to stay, the annulum. And I don't say that as beautifully as they say it, but that space to be able to get into neutrality. However, there have to also be expected ways of discourse and for meetings and for things to occur. And you must be ready to abide by that. And I say this for all of the parties involved, no one in particular, because if you're going to have someone this way, you're going to probably get someone primed in the opposite direction where a clash will occur. So you have to understand these dynamics so that you do not participate in them, and you can create what you really want to create in these support groups.
Yes, and oftentimes, this targeting will get people in these communities to fight over, even squabble over details, point fingers at one another, things of that nature. Emotions will fly high pretty much. And this is something that this gaslighting cannot be given into, no matter how you feel on the subject, on whatever took place anywhere at any point in time. It should not be basically pointed out, nor should it be gaslit on, over, or by whatever sort of force is doing it. This usually means, and they say, oh, I believe it's oh, that's how they do it, like in a whisper. Uh, and that's how they say it, and that's the calm. It just translates to calm in English. So I believe it's ancient Aryan as far as I
Right.
know. But
But do we have great anger at times, great empathy toward those people? You better believe it.
mhm.
Because again, we have our own memories and our own problems, but we know that that is not is what's going to heal us and move us forward. And the goal now is to create these groups that can provide great support and understanding, but it takes personal inner work and group understanding, and work to be able to form these unities that people want.
hmm Yes, and Isaac said you said understanding. So anytime she does a verbal typo, he points it out now. That seems to be a hobby of his anyway. That
I'll do more just to have
yeah, I just found that hilarious. But that's kind of a dick move. But I just find it hilarious.
That's nothing
But
less.
let me see. Hmm. I believe it's Sir Isaac that's going to talk because he's the only one around. So um, I just find it funny when he does that. And he will do this. He will also take any opportunity during sessions to throw a sexual innuendo where there was never one before. Or if it's something that somebody words wrong, they'll go, "Oh crap," and then he'll throw that in there. Like if they feel they worded it wrong or they just didn't catch it or something, or he'll construct one out of one that was not in existence to begin with. Or if there's a verbal typo like that, he goes right for it. So even Sean Bond was surprised that he goes, the fact you have a guide that does this, that's pretty extraordinary. So I thought that was hilarious. All right, Isaac, we might as well dry throat. Might as well get this over with. Oh, well, not over with, but you can go through this. The energy must be especially charged, or else I wouldn't be able to do this after a long session. Spirit Lake, I could do several. It depends on it's the time of year. We're in the south, approaching the Samhain time frame, or the Samhain, or harvest and or Halloween season. People forget it's not just one day; it's actually two official days: Halloween, All Hallows Eve, and All Saints Day, and it's actually the season from the 21st of September leading up to the 1st of November. People forget this part, that it's a season. So people always say, "Well, oh, I wish Halloween had a season." It does. So just a little history lesson. Yes, I know. Right. Okay. Speaking of brain muscles, he figures he has to say things like that to flex brain muscle. Yes. Now, well, I guess everybody does this, but anyway, we can actually move on into this conversation hand. Yes, there are recent and past incidences in all over the country of groups coming together for SSP, for paranormal, and for others that would form an actual organic camaraderie. Then there's always an individual or set of individuals that will cause drama in some areas, violence in others, and also accusations in others. And it's infighting that gets caused because it's a divide and conquer technique. It's divide, conquer, and control. This is how this particular bit of distraction is set up within this community. because they plant moles in these communities to make sure that it has a yielded foundation. And what he calls the yield is where there is some truthful information and some bullshit thrown in there. Then I'd like to say all the conferences out there that were clear of this, and it is not. The recent one is the least or the most clear that I have witnessed. Meaning tweaking is needed in all of this. That is actually a compliment. The percentage is actually the highest I've ever seen it for the Disclosure Now conference that's in 2024. So in July, it was the highest that I've ever seen. So with that, you have to watch within your community, within any groups you form, that there are these situations where people are brought together, sometimes just to cause arguments, no insult to either party, or there's V2K that gets involved to stop unity or stop the organic flowness of unity. And what they want to see if they can insert one of their very own people within the hallowed halls of said conferences. If you are running one of these across the country, just know that in these situations, that there are usually moles that try to get within these conferences. My suggestion is a phrase that Odin came up with: tighter circle, deeper roots. Within this, you some people will say that this is too heavy of a vetting or a gatekeeper. Now, there is a difference. He likes to differ. There are necessary bits of gatekeeping that must take place within an organization like that, or you are mentally retarded. So, with in a situation like that, you must have somebody that guards the gates to the kingdom. Now, where it gets out of control is when it forms a clique. There's a difference between a clique and a gatekeeper or a vetting. A clique is like what the cabal does. It started out as the other one, believe it or not, in some form or fashion. At least the more current one, the banking families, in some areas started out as some in some areas started out as just friends getting together. Other cases in those banking families, they went straight for the jugular because they were from rich families to begin with. Now, in the cases like if you want a conference, a tighter circle, deeper roots, you have the person gatekeeping, but some groups have false information that has been put in there, and then they're basing it on a bias. That is a no-no. That is negative gatekeeping. They're basing it on pretty much an out-of-date set of information versus an up-to-date set of information. Or they are a little community that could be of a particular religion, a little community of a particular set of art, or what have you. And they are a real tough nut to crack. He has encountered this in this area, trying to get in good with some of the energetic workers around here, and also that in Arizona as well, because they form these cliques, and some of them are overly harsh. Now, the gatekeeping aspect, he likes to distinguish between vetting and gatekeeping. I will actually disagree with this. It's just how harsh is your bias? How harsh is your methodology for gatekeeping? Now, do you always have to be the almighty vetter? No, there is a difference between vetting and gatekeeping in this respect, in this one respect. You could be turning someone away that actually has valuable things to say. You could be turning someone away that who you are getting vetted by might not necessarily be or have the prestige and clout that you think they do. Take a case in point: during your 2020 events, you had people saying, "Oh yeah, that person was true. Yeah, yeah, I can vouch for that person," and then somebody else would go, "I can vouch for that person," and then everybody said, "Oh, it must be true because so and so said this." You see where this goes? So you don't want to become that. What happened in 2020? Oh, no, no, no. You don't want that in your academic field, like it has happened in your academic field. You want the disclosure movement separate from academia completely. You might want members of academia, but you don't want their gatekeepers intruding on stepping on your lawn. You see where this goes? So I will go into questions.
But we have to acknowledge that this is hard.
Yeah.
I think, one of the things again why I have a ton of compassion for all parties, all sides in this, because this isn't cut and dry easy. And I worry for people who think it is, because it really isn't. People are good at what they do. Um if they are a willing party trained to try to get into something, they're very good at what they do. And they can appear to be as victimized as anyone else. They can appear. So all of this stuff is really, really happening. I think, again, where you really have to start is with yourself and understanding, again, the dynamics that are going on that make things like this instill a vulnerable state. Because again, I go back to, no offense, there is no, I can prove some of this. You really can't. And
So there is no real way to vet it other than the fact that you have one click vetting a fledgling one, you see. So you have a click that has formed within a community that already has some of the yield factors in place that are trying to vet and make sure, or more like manicure another fledgling one into the form that it's in, like a copy and paste. This is what needs to be avoided.
Right. And so again, allowing that expansion of, just people to be able to have these conversations is really, really important. There does, in my opinion, need to be a standard of, let's just say, again, a standard of behavior and how we interact with one another to be able to allow for an organic unity to form. Mm-hmm. Right now, in my humble opinion, everything in this world, if you turn on the TV, if you just read the news, you just do anything, everything is being done right now is to show you how to not have an organic unity form. Mm-hmm. Everything is being done to show you how to judge, how to, form these cliques, how to gain power within cliques, how to do these things. That's what's actually being unfortunately modeled out there. And it's really not, what the everyday person would want as far as forming any sort of organic unity.
Monkey see, monkey do, I believe the phrase is. Right. It is essentially the same premise.
And it's hard because, again, what people are potentially remembering in some instances is really horrible stuff. It would be unnatural to say, oh, it's okay. It's not okay.
It's not okay, but you must at least come to terms that it took place.
Correct. And that to me is the biggest deal, because this, this sense of justice or this sense of whatever, I get it. I get those kinds of feelings for wanting that. Is it potentially going to come out the way that you feel justice should be served? Probably not. But what is the greater justice? In my opinion, the greater justice is healing through this and being able to get this information out and to be able to form these unities within groups that are healthy, that allow people to heal and allow people to be heard. And I think I can agree that I really feel those were the qualities of what happened at the disclosure conference that was organic and genuine. Yes. And good, that maybe weren't at other conferences. You didn't have that. So you want to see that, again, continue. But again, you have to be able to always look at yourself and really present yourself as the person you say you are. Now, again, if you define yourself as a jerk right now, I mean, if that's who you think you are right now, that you're a jerk in this current present moment life or whatever, and all you can look at is saying, I went off with their heads and I'm going to scream and yell to the highest degree until it's done. I actually don't want much to do with you, to be quite honest, because you can have those moments, you can have them in private, but that really is something that's going to turn away the nicest of persons.
But on the flip side of the argument, that which was done to 9/10 of them yes, informing as to what happened and showing even your anger side is not necessarily bad unless it is all that is said.
That's my point. And what you just said, if you're living there and only there, if you won't find a way to heal it, if that's where you go and that's where you stay, if you can't find your way into a calm to have a discussion, that is a problem. That is a problem of, again, a person not healing. I'm sorry, but it's my belief system as well that that can be damaging to the whole group and has to be kind of, but you want that healing. What you shouldn't be doing is saying you don't want that healing for that person. Do you want people to heal or not? It may be, again, that you have to be at a certain place to be able to handle some of these extra stresses that will come through in order to have these conversations. But I have to say, the flip side of being the one who's having the volcano moment is the one on the other side that's doing the judging of it. That is that's both sides of the exact same coin going on. One is doing it with great emotion, one is doing it with potential calmness, but still an anger underneath that needs to be looked at. And so it shouldn't be either of those ways, but you have to, in the middle, find a way to be able to be in the middle to have these conversations to move it forward, or maybe more healing needs to be done.
It must be done calmly, or as the Forest people say, or if you are going to say, of course, angry things that took place, you need to also know that, yes, be authentic, be genuine. Of course, if you have that off with your head's thought train, yeah, be authentic. But at the same time, you also must present your your information in also a what's the word I'm looking for, tactful sort of way. Uh, that way, you actually get to the power of where that anger is coming from right off the bat. Like, say, an artist gives a powerful message in a painting, a writer gives a powerful message in a poem, a writer gives a powerful message in a book, a photographer gives a powerful message in a photograph. Even if it's dark or light, it's still there. That is the way and the balance that it must be dictated. Or I shouldn't say dictated in, commanding presence. There's a difference between dictation and commanding. Commanding is where you own the space, where you are doing things with confidence, balance, and dictatorial is where you're basically telling the crowd exactly how they're going to do it. That's the difference.
And what's really important to know about why you want to work on making sure you're in these spaces is because if you can do it from that space and from that genuine, authentic self that you are and that power, you usually don't trigger other people. They can actually hear the conversation to be able to contemplate it without the triggering. And that's the goal.
But to correct a minute, you cannot control who is triggered. And sometimes that is exactly what needs to occur to a particular person in order to get them to have the epiphany moment.
I agree with you 1,000%. I agree with what you're saying. I'm talking about my specific, thought train has to do with the triggering that causes the chaos to decline this. But no, I agree with you.
And decline the community and cause chaos magic as a whole. That is where the line must be drawn.
Right.
This is something that some people have a hard time hearing, but at the same time, it must be done. He hates the whole playing the game concept. There are times where he wants to be the bulwark of the wrecking ball and watching the massive restructuring within the blink of an eye. This is not physically possible, and not how the system was set up, unless you want something that's even more chaotic than what put it there. And I'm talking about war, I'm talking about mass violence, things of that nature. If you do not wish this, you have to see a restructuring before your eyes, but not like this. What was genius in the show Picard, for instance, where in season 2, where he says change does not come in the time that we think that it should. This is actually the motto of also Valiant. Thor likes to use this. In fact, he was the one that put that damn phrase in the show, because the next part after he says the line, the character of Talon or Talus was actually supposed to be a female version of himself, or operatives like himself. This is why the next scene sequence was followed by the Gary Seven movement, or the Watchers that were in it, because it was Valiant Thor himself that penned that particular phrase to begin with. He won't care that I actually quoted him. He was also, Gary Seven was based off of himself, basically scaring people out of the arms race in the episode of Silent Earth and old Star Trek, things of that nature. He put those things in that phrase. He didn't want people being discouraged and not co-create something. Just know some of these manifestations take a long time to come to fruition. Sometimes they're within the blink of an eye. It depends on how many people are looking at the thing, or manifesting the change, or becoming that change. It could happen tomorrow if everyone then they say woke up, but that's not what I'm saying. Actually, at least came to the realization that something is wrong, that needs to be corrected. It's one thing coming to the realization that something is wrong. It's one thing knowing that you were also in a place. It's another thing entirely doing the necessary shadow work and integration to make that happen. Do you think this happens in a blink of an eye? It does not. It just is faster than it has been in ancient times, but it's still not in the blink of an eye.
So I guess the one thing, I'll let you have a last word here, but I just want to say that I cannot stress how much empathy and understanding that we have towards people that are going through this. I oftentimes have said, I hope many people don't remember, because it can be so devastating. But if you need to bring it. Your oversoul wants you to remember it. Again, we do understand the difficulties of this. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't seem right. I can really get how somebody would say it was a past life. I get all that.
Most have seen that as a past life. They even hinted on one of your streaming networks that was the case, even though that streaming network is not nearly as legit as they claim to be. I will not say the name, but you know what I'm referring. Also, your Star Trek world, if you want this, you have to claim it. You have to help build these foundations of organic unity. And I'm not saying in a non-organic New World Order sort of way, melting the border kind of sort of way. No, 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 no. I'm talking about an organic way that sets the foundation for the next stage. And I know you want the Star Trek world now, and there are aspects that could be released now with absolute safety. I could honestly see that, like he says, the garbage reclamation tech, or replicators, or they always say the med beds and stuff, but there's a lot of propaganda and psyops involved in this, and carrot and stick involved in a lot of this. The thing of it is that they could safely integrate some of these things now, even free energy they could integrate now. But if that were all implemented, would this stop the mindsets of the people that were still operating the machines? Would this stop people from believing the things that were harming other people, certain even religious or even scientific beliefs? Would this change people's teachings and ability to encode and decode overnight, even if you were able to shut off the cyanic dampening? No. That is what takes time. The heart of the matter must also be there to bring about the Star Trek world. Yes, others have the heart space and the manifestation and the vision. Wonderful. They all have to start somewhere. Does it happen tomorrow? No. But if you want to manifest that sooner than later, then you must have the heart space and the vision. And you must also deny the known and manifest differently. Some will do things like that fast, and others, is there going to be a mass awakening? No. But is there going, or a mass ascension, or any of that psyop nonsense? No, no, no. The most that would happen is people would, if the sonic dampening were shut off safely, it would people would go, why did I say certain things? Why did I do certain things? Would the emotions and the guilt and all that go away? No, just the enhanced versions of those. If the Draco were gone tomorrow, would this happen? Yes, but would people still be people. Yeah, they would.
And so, again, this conversation we wanted to have to kind of give a bigger understanding about, what's going on out there. Um, Having these groups, people remembering in these groups starting to come together, it was expected. I mean, all of this plans were made to try and disrupt and to cause problems. All of that exists. Just again, understand that your work you do on yourself and the understanding of how these psyops and different things work to try and move you and move your behaviors and move things in all kinds of directions. Understanding how it all works helps you to better control and understand yourself, the world around you, so that you can make decisions that are better for yourself and the world you want. And I think most people out there really genuinely want these organic unities to form for a very benevolent reason and for understanding and for moving forward, with all of this information. So I just leave any last words for you.
Yes, this is very interesting and a good topic. This is why he felt the need to do this after his long session. But in the future, we will make sure that it's done after not so long sessions and draining of mental neural energy and neurotransmitters and psionic energy. But in this particular instance, this time of year is giving him a boost, even though it may not seem like it, and there are freaking ghosts all over the place. And I will say this before we actually cut this: the jellyfish things you have been seeing around, so the octopus things are void, the void type of things. The little brain-like things are void things. The jellyfish are actually, as he got the synchronicity from his Dead Files program, are actually fragments of ghosts that are being used by these jellyfish type dimensional ETs to and formed in their likeness and actually thrown at people as attachments. So more ghosts show up on top of more ghost pieces, you see. So him eliminating said piece actually draws in more ghosts. And so, because they're seeing one thing eliminated, they're coming in droves because in actuality, that fragment transmuted goes to the place it needs to go back to the other. So they're seeing it as a form of help, sort of, or they're seeing it as a form of damnation, and they will either try to get you to repent or they'll try to assault. Jellyfish, ghost fragments. Again, turned that way by a dimensional group of assholes that you've seen. They're jellyfish type of ships in the sky, dimensional instances. They bleed through just like the big cities you see in the sky bleed through. And what you're actually seeing floating in the air are basically ghost feces. This is, I shouldn't say feces, it's more like skin cells, but you get the idea. Conscious pieces of ghosts these are actually people. You're wading through people is what you're wading through. Of all the people that have died even in the past 4 years. Think of every cell in someone's body becoming millions of these little things. Brain slugs. Some are animals from other dimensions, like if you see certain aquatic life in the like in a desert area, like you were in Arizona, seeing octopus and seeing crayfish and seeing shrimp. Those were actual creatures that were there in the times of the ocean, and also during like in Sedona's vortexes, for instance, you're actually in that area. Some people are just seeing it like a little rods of light. These are these are not insects. These were actually water creatures that were there millions of years ago, since that was an ocean, also a spaceport, and there's a lot of energy flying around that. And also you see that quite often by caves too, where we're coming out of the inner earth or dimensional spaces and whatnot. But out of people, if you're curious, the jellyfish things are people. So again, like on Ghostbusters, ghosts mutate into demonic-like things. You can rip one apart and turn every cell into trillions and trillions of little things. Very much like you have skin cells and dust mites and all this up in the air. It's the same difference, except in the etheric. It's pretty gross. And other dimensional beings, anytime you see the gangly, just know that that was somebody at some point. Mm.
You should have saved that for our campfire with the whole flashlight underneath, and it's dark outside. You would have scared a lot of people with that. I said ghost story.
Mm-hmm. It is a literal ghost story. And so if people are experiencing that, those will also be attracted to, they will be thrown at people that have not gone through the dark night of the soul and have not integrated what they need to integrate. Think about that. When something tries to jam its way into your crown, know that it is trying to go for something that is stored in your mind. That's up there, I know, with Night Gallery and the earwicks. There's also up there with Wrath of Khan and the worms that Khan puts in Chekhov's brain. But it's up there with that. So I will leave that on that beautiful.
Staring everybody.
No, but in this case, I will detach. No, thank you. Bye bye. Now that I have spooked people. So. But yeah, there has been an over amount of that crap lately. So, but he tied it in with the SSP because of the not dealing with something. And this was shown. Miles Johnston also posted on his presentation. He showed a picture of several of those. And on the program that he was making reference to on Dead Files, there was somewhere where Amy Allen had drawn a bunch of them on someone's ceiling. And she even said they were ghost fragments. And I looked further into this, and this is actually true. But they only come at you if you haven't dealt with something, or that something of that nature, or a being that just wants to torment will grab them and sling them. So, and they'll put them as part of themselves. And that's like the Drakh in Babylon 5, where you see the attachments all in the lizard guy and that. But anyway, I won't go into that. That's actually a different show. I'm just saying that one can attract the other. And that's, I think, the point he wanted to make with the gross ending to the show. But anyway, all right. Thank you, everybody, for watching the show tonight. I don't know if you have anything else to add.
Just again, we have great empathy and understand all of the feelings people that have around these issues. And we're just so happy to hear that there are groups all around beginning to try to form to support one another in an organic unity. And we are so happy to hear that. And we just want continued success in these areas.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I completely agree. So now I will now close this circle within True Benevolence and No Conflicting Agendas as of this moment in time. So thank you, everybody. Bye-bye now.